The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-host and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employers. Viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on our live shows.
Broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this episode of This Week in Guns is sponsored by Patriot Patch. This is PatriotPatch.co.
Welcome to This Week in Guns. This show is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network and Patriot Patch Company.
And this show offers commentary on the latest firearms industry news, information, and buzz. I'm your host, Shawn Heron, and I always get the privilege of introducing our panelists tonight. First up, we've got the president of Eagle Imports and the founder of Walk the Talk America, focusing on mental health to reduce firearms deaths in the United States. Mike Sodini, welcome back to the show, man. You're muted. Sorry, buddy. Hold on. I'm fixing it. Maybe. I don't know. You're still muted. Technology has not been working with us lately. See if you can unmute it on your side. There you go. Hey, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me again.
Glad to have you, man. Sorry about the tech issues there. Next up, we've got co-host of the Firearms Insider Gun and Gear Review podcast and owner lead instructor at Contextual Defense and Consulting, Zane Mungillo. God dang it.
Every time.
Welcome to the show, buddy.
What's going on, man?
Say your last name.
Mungillo.
I'm just kidding. I actually know it. I just screwed up on purpose. At least that's
right.
how I'm telling it.
That's the story we're going with.
It's Mangillo. Got it?
Yeah, I've been called a number of things.
I love it. Guys, go check out the Patriot Patch Company and join their Patch of the Month Club. They help support this show and keep it on the air. Let's get straight into it. The first story, New Zealand has one thing right. They're not publicizing the face of the heinous killer. Now, we are going to talk way more in depth about this, but they're not saying his name. And in fact, I read about 15 news articles today prepping for this show. I honestly don't even know the dude's name, which I think it's a huge improvement because a lot of the stuff is for notoriety. There's some programs out there where media is saying, don't promote it. It's the no notoriety media protocol. And I got to say, all the articles I read, never read this guy's name once, which is great because I don't care what his name is. I just care that he's a murdering piece of human trash. Zane, what do you think about all this?
I think it's a good thing that they're not publicizing his name. I think a lot of us in the gun community have been saying that for years now. Like, a lot of these people are doing it for the notoriety. This guy even wrote a manifesto and had it like he clearly wanted attention out of this, and he's not getting it, and he shouldn't. So,
yeah, I agree. Mike,
1,000%. I mean, I just came off a show and we were kind of talking about the mass shooter, and it just seems like it's rinse, wash, repeat. They do the same things. We never learn from them in certain aspects, especially the media. I should say the media, but yeah, I agree. Let's not give them the notoriety. Let's not let them go down in history. And we've seen it in the past that they do that. That's something that they're going for. I mean, so
yeah.
No. I think you guys talked about it on We Like Shooting one time, but it's very similar to when the news around here stopped showing streakers at baseball games. Like, they stopped doing it. So,
it's kind of funny how that works.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this today because I think this is a fantastic thing. Like I don't agree with giving them notoriety because that's what they crave because they feel unimportant in life. So they feel that by taking a bunch of other lives, they'll get that notoriety. And then I started to think about Harry Potter, and I know that that's a little bit weird, but in the world of Harry Potter, like they had adopted a very similar policy. And because of that, those names like gained a sort of power. And I was kind of thinking that, right? Because they weren't allowed to say Voldemort because, it would kind of, he would hear it somehow and know that people were talking about him. And I also wonder, coming from this other angle, does this give them more power by not saying their names? Mike, I'll start with you.
Oh, that's a really, really tough question. I think that's more of a psychology type deal. I'm not sure I'm equipped to answer that. He who walks behind the rose, some Children of the Corn type name or something that makes him notorious. But I don't know. I mean,
yeah, I just always try to think about things from two directions. And I was thinking about this and I was like, is there another time when this has happened? And that was all I could come up with was Harry Potter. So Zane, big Harry Potter fan, are you? You're muted.
I have never read nor seen a single Harry Potter anything. I do see your point, and I think that I absolutely agree. We should not be publishing their names or their pictures or anything like that. I think, however, alluding to what you're talking about, when you give them some mysterious name like the Zodiac Killer or the Unabomber or something of that nature, then I think that might do just as much damage as publishing their name, because they're still getting the fame and notoriety. It just might not be their actual name. So I just call them the douchebag or whatever you want to, I just don't, I see your point, but I don't think it's as harmful as the other way.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm 100% on the side of don't say their names, but I was just trying to think like, what are the repercussions of this? Just something I thought we might chat about just a little bit. Next story, Dick's doubles down on its atrophy and pulls guns and ammo from 125 stores. So Parkland happens. Dick's says, we're not going to sell modern sporting rifles anymore. Consumers stop flocking to Dick's. They take huge losses. They report those losses. They blame specifically their choices. And now they've decided to double down. Well, since no one's buying them, we're just going to pull them out of the stores. And I think it'll have even more impact. A lot of the people who went there for hunting and outdoors type stuff. They're not going there anymore. And I think that this will just do even more damage to their business. And I hope that they ride that train of euphoria that they feel from their virtue signaling all the way to the poorhouse. Zane, I'll start with you.
The initial response to Parkland, I think, was absolutely virtue signaling. This, I just think, is a business decision. They saw their sales drop and they're like, guns aren't doing so well. We can use that space to put something else that'll sell better. Whether that's a direct result of folks like us saying we're not buying from anymore, because I know I've never purchased a firearm or ammunition from a big box store like Dick's or Bass Pro or Cabela's, because there's cheaper places to do it. So whether that has anything to do with us being mad at them or not, I don't know, but I think this is purely a business decision.
Mike?
Yeah, I agree. That Zane, you got to go first there. I was about to say the exact same thing. At this point, they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. If they keep the firearms in and it's not selling and it's a dog or the ammo, and everything like that, there's no going back from what they did. There's no undoing it. They already made their stance when they did it originally. So,
yeah, I agree. So I guess we'll see kind of where this takes them. I do know that for 100%, I used to go into the Dick's Sporting Goods. It was kind of by the place that I spend a lot of my money, because there's like the movie theater and a Best Buy and restaurants that I go to and a Lowe's and just all kinds of stores in this thing. And there's a Dick's Sporting Goods right in the middle. I used to always go in there and just kind of look around, see what they had. And I used to shop there when I was buying presents for people, sporting stuff. And I haven't been in one in years. And I am not a boycott kind of guy. Like, I pretty much drink Starbucks whenever it's convenient and that kind of stuff. So we will see. This one, for some reason, stuck in my craw a bit, and we'll see where it takes him. Next story, Florida man arrested for bringing an AK pistol to his son's school. This I was kind of interesting. So apparently his kid FaceTimed him at about 3:00 in the afternoon, said that a teacher had slammed him. The guy called the principal and said, if this isn't my son, you're all dead. Like, if this isn't my son's fault, you're all dead. Goes with a mini Draco in his pants. School resource officer sees him, and they put the school on a code red lockdown. This guy says right here, let me just find it. Freeman said that he was upset and came to the school, but didn't realize he was carrying the weapon because he carries it all the time for protection. Mike, take the honors.
Carries a Draco all the time for protection. That's some Migos stuff right there.
I was like, what? I mean, it's a pistol, but it's still like an AK.
Yeah. There's a lot of humor in this story, but at the same time, this is exactly what gives the community a bad name, right? I don't know. I've never been in that scenario where I'm like, I forgot about the gun that was in my bag and I entered a plane, or I've always been conscious of my firearm. I guess it can happen. I mean, but I don't get it.
But like a Draco, it's like, what? Zane?
Yeah, so I'm a big advocate for carrying the largest firearm that you can feasibly conceal. But I don't know anyone who carries basically an SBR in their pants, but hey, whatever. As for carrying it to the school and he did not forget. I think we can all agree that because even when I'm rolling around with just a J frame,
Yes.
I don't forget I'm carrying a gun. I'm conscious of it now. It is a lot of times very, very comfortable if you choose proper holster, and it's almost as if you'd forget, but you still know. So yeah, this guy's just I don't know if he had ill intent on his mind, but he definitely wanted to threaten people or something. So yeah, good on the good guys on this one.
Yeah. And I mean, good for the SRO to see it, identify it, and end that threat. Next story comes to us from concealednation.org. And this one's interesting. It says ATF could be seeing big changes soon. So apparently Donald Trump has proposed to Congress. Let me get rid of this ad out of my way. Proposed to Congress. He had actually put this in before in 2018. They seemed disinterested in the change. But what he is proposing would be to get rid of the alcohol and tobacco out of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, and rename it to Bureau of Arson, Explosives, and Firearms. And the reason is because combined alcohol and tobacco related cases only total 0.24% of the cases where that agency sought charges. So 92% of the time they're going in firearms related cases. This would remove it from the BATF, put it with the U.S. Treasury Department. And I don't know. I think that would be, I really don't see how it affects me in my daily life or even really the things that I care too much about. But Mike, do you see it any different?
Yeah, it's funny. Before I was kind of knee deep in firearms, I used to always wonder about the alcohol and tobacco part because you just never saw stories of that. And I always think of the Ollie G episode when the guy's like, I work for the ATF, alcohol, tobacco, firearms. And Ollie G was like, well, what else do you sell? And he's like, oh, no, it's not like that. So, yeah, this doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it doesn't really bother me either. I'm trying to think of like good things, bad things. Zane, do you see anything that I'm not seeing?
I think it could go either way for us. It could work in our favor, or this could absolutely not work in our favor. You said only about 2.4%?
No, 0.24%.
See that? Wow, that is strange. They need to get their priorities in order. Actually, they need to just disband the whole ATF altogether because that should be a convenience store. But yeah, so it's weird because we think of ATF as firearms in our circle, but like I was at a bar talking to a bartender a couple weeks back, and she was talking a lot about ATF, and they send an agents in and all this, and I was like, I forgot that they do other stuff. So I don't know. I don't think it will honestly affect us too much, but I mean, it could definitely be a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing. So I don't really know.
Yeah. Let me propose this to you guys. First off, I know that they've proposed or approved the change to ITAR, where that's going to go under the U.S. Treasury Department as well, which is going to severely reduce the fees associated because they apparently don't charge the same fee structures as where ITAR is handled right now. And also, it kind of takes it into another U.S. department, and I worry about that stuff as well. But I mean, clearly the BATFE right now is kind of governing from a non-elected department within the government. Does this change things, or is it just more of the same, do you think, Mike?
I think it's just more of the same. I mean, it's just you're moving it around. That's all.
Yeah.
And
I agree. Zane, anything else there you think?
No, I just think we have way too many regulatory agencies that no one elected to their position on everything.
Definitely. Mandatory AR-15 ownership bill introduced in Missouri. A Missouri lawmaker, Republican, has basically introduced a bill that would require residents to own AR-15 firearms and also authorize a tax credit for purchase of an AR-15. Zane, what do you think, man?
I feel about this about the same way I felt about Obamacare. You should not force an individual to purchase something. I understand there's a tax credit in this case, but you know what? If you don't want to own a firearm, you don't have to. It's your right to do so. But I don't like the government forcing people to do things. I think this is a lot of virtue signaling on this guy's part. I think he's just grandstanding a little bit. And it could be also just to kind of point out how ridiculous laws are on the other side. I don't know. I just think the whole thing's stupid. And I honestly wouldn't give this a snowball's chance in hell of passing.
Mike?
I agreed 1,000%. Again, I don't think this is going to pass. And also, too, I don't think for me, it doesn't put us in a good light because we're doing the same thing that's done to us, right? Like, hey, you have to have this. No, you don't. Like, if you don't want to go get a driver's license, you don't have to get a driver's license. You can't operate a car. That's it, period. Same thing. I don't like it.
Yep. I'm 100% with you guys. And I'm really glad you both feel that way. The government is not here to control us, people. That I think everyone kind of forgets that sometimes, but the government, it does not exist to control American citizens. Sorry. That's just the way it is. I agree. You want to give me a tax credit for a purchase of an AR-15? I'm in. You want to require me to buy one? Out 100%.
Oh, I'll take all the tax credits because taxation is theft.
Another interesting one from Missouri. Their Senate has passed a bill to nullify federal gun laws. Now, this one I can kind of get behind. It basically says that all federal acts, law, executive orders, administrative orders, court orders, rules, and regulations, whether past, present, or future, which infringe on the people's right to keep and bear arms as guaranteed by the Second Amendment to the United States. 1 in Section 23 of the Missouri Constitution shall be invalid in the state, shall not be recognized by the state, shall be specifically rejected by the state, and shall be considered null and void and no effect in the state. Mic drop. Mike, what do you think?
That's awesome. That kind of goes like that with that sanctuary city stuff with in terms of firearms, correct? Like, same concept. I saw something about Texas with that. So
yeah, perhaps. I mean, they're just basically saying that federal law doesn't matter as relates to the Second Amendment and guns. And I'm like, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see how it works for them.
Yeah, no, I'd love to see where that goes because I like what I heard. So
yeah, and again, I try to always look at things from two sections. It's definitely going to be interesting, especially if a federal law enforcement agent or officer tries to enforce federal firearms law on a citizen of Missouri. I think we actually have a case going to the Supreme Court right now from Kansas, yeah,
yep.
Where the Kansas law allowed them to own suppressors, so they did it. He bought one from an Army Navy surplus store, and now he's going to the Supreme Court because that's not how it works. In the Missouri bill, they also go as far as to say that they can arrest and charge federal agents that try to enforce federal laws on Missouri citizens. Zane, what do you make of it all?
It sounds good in writing, but I mean, what is it? We also have the Firearms Under Protection Act that allows you to, cross state lines with your firearms federally, but New York is like, we don't care. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, sure, they can do this, but the federal government, I mean, despite popular belief, ICE is alive and well working in California. So you can pass whatever law you want. I mean, and I don't agree with the federal government infringing on the states, but the fact of the matter is this is basically going to be worth the paper it's written on. I hope that's not the case, but that's kind of the way I see this playing out.
Yeah. Later on in the article from the Sentinel, it says, but will it hold up in a federal court? It says, yes, the bill's main provision calling on the entire state to cease enforcing federal gun control measures stands on solid legal ground under the anti-commandeering doctrine. Court precedent from 1842 to 2012 stipulates that the feds simply cannot require a state to help them violate your constitutional rights and allows states the power to refuse to enforce such federal laws it deems unconstitutional. And I don't know. It's interesting. I like seeing stuff like this. I'm curious where it goes. I think we all are. I think we're all on pretty much the same page there.
What I want to know is if this does pass, who's going to be the first person to, drill that third hole in their receiver?
Mm-hmm. Who sets the precedent? I mean, like, yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, who's going to be the guy that says, "Oh, well, it wouldn't be me."
Mm-hmm.
I don't do good in tight spaces.
Yeah, forget about it. I'm not interested. In other awesome states to live in, Iowa passes constitutional amendment to keep and bear arms. On March 13th, 2019, the Iowa State Senate voted 33-16 to pass Senate Joint Resolution 18 to propose an amendment to the state constitution affirming and recognizing the right of Iowans to keep and bear arms as a fundamental individual right. Later that day, the House voted 53-46 to concur, and it will not appear on the ballot until 2022. Still pretty cool. They also introduced two other things. One would allow Iowa permit to carry weapons holders, which is their concealed carry permit, basically, to go onto school grounds to pick up and drop off students without having to first unload and lock up their firearms in their vehicles. And they also would allow bottlenecked cartridges instead of just straight walled cartridges for hunting and protect handgun hunting through the state of Iowa. These all I like. I have no problems with them at all. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I have no problem with this at all. What blew me away about reading that article was the states that were all lumped in together with Iowa. Who'd have thought Iowa had like I think it was California and was Jersey on there? So there were some weird states on there. I was shocked to see that Iowa actually was like that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. Zane?
Yeah, I like all of it. I think it is kind of odd that they're introducing a constitutional amendment to protect and bear arms. Like there's a federal Second Amendment and the 10th Amendment applies that to the states. But I think it's good that they're recognizing that and say, okay, no, we absolutely recognize this. This applies. Yeah, and I think anything that allows people to exercise their rights more easily is a good thing.
Next story, Beto. He's a problem, guys. Fox News host recommends buying AR-15s after Beto O'Rourke suggests banning them. This guy announced that he's running for president in 2020. Comes to us from the fine state of Texas. Basically said that we shouldn't be selling weapons of war into the public, and that includes AR-15s. A Fox co-host, last name Hegseth, told viewers to stock up on the weapon. If I own an AR-15, stock of gun companies probably will go up after things like this, Beto said. Or I'm sorry, the Hegseth said, responsible gun owners recognize their right to own rifles. You can use weapons of war or assault ban all you want. And let's not forget that the Second Amendment reasonably exists to overthrow a tyrannical government. And that if you want to overthrow a tyrannical government, you would have to have the same weapons that the tyrannical government would use to oppress you. Go ahead, Zane.
There's that pesky Miller case back from the 30s that everyone seems to forget about.
Yeah, so weird.
Yeah, this story is just, it's what you'd expect between a liberal politician and Fox News. I didn't really see anything that jumped out at me as interesting, but yeah, that guy,
he's a problem. He is a problem. News came out earlier last week that he had been part of a hacker group, which I don't really care about that at all, but it was some of the essays and stuff that he had posted and written on the website when he was a part of that hacker group that really were very interesting thought processes and not something that I would want out of a leader of the United States. Mike, what do you think about the whole thing?
Well, if he has that type of power to increase the sales, I'd just like to throw my hat in the ring there. And there's Metro Arms too. That could be a weapon of mass destruction, and so can Bursa. So
there you go.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. So when I saw the actual clip of what the guy said, or, after he said, oh, go out and stock up, it really, like Zane said, it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, whatever, keep moving. That's what he's going to run on. That's his rhetoric, whatever.
Yeah, I agree. And I would like to go on record as saying there's two bad things that have that root word in it. We've got Beto, the AR-15 taker, and also Betus, which is a bad disease for a lot of people in the United States. All right, guys, that's kind of the end of some of the positive and uplifting stuff. Let's talk about some stuff that's not uplifting. And this is what happened in New Zealand. A gunman killed 49 at 2 New Zealand mosques. The New Zealand prime minister immediately came out, blames the gun, said, we are changing our gun laws. It comes out later that the New Zealand murderer intended to start a civil war in the U.S. by his actions, saying basically that this will cause a big, huge rift and will probably lead to a civil war in his manifesto. Turns out that he was basically a leftist, a fascist by his own admission, and a socialist as well. Not right-wing as was reported. And New Zealand gun owners are turning in their semi-auto rifles voluntarily. So basically this guy planned a thing. He carried it out. He walked into a mosque with, I believe, a modern sporting rifle and used it to murder a bunch of people. I speculated on Instagram and Facebook under the We Like Shooting account that the most powerful individual in all of New Zealand is this murderer, because with one act, he has controlled all the law-abiding and gun owners in there. He is more powerful than all of their politicians because he forced them with one act to basically give up on what they do and how they live their lives and change everything. I don't understand it. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that anytime we have these types of tragedies, there's going to be absolutely an emotional reaction. As far as what he had written in the past. I think he kind of underestimates the power of the United States and how we feel about this. I mean, we're pros in this gun thing, and it's going to take a lot more than that to break us. We've been through worse. But yeah, it's a bad thing all around. I think people need to understand something about our industry is that we hate this. We absolutely hate this. We're not out there celebrating anytime this happens. Gun sales we're not, none of that. It's madness, so it's a shame.
Yeah, he's an awful piece of trash. I'm glad no one is saying his name, so hopefully we don't end up with copycats. Zane, what's your take?
So everyone's playing right into his hand. It's not like he was a random mass shooter, as terrible as they all are, but it's not like he was like a random mass shooter and did this, and now everyone's like, oh, we need gun control. He literally spelled out that he did this because he wants this to happen, and they're giving it to him. They're literally playing right into this guy's hand. And I have to wonder, like, why? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. I don't care about his politics, if he's right wing or if he's left wing or any of that. I've seen it reported both ways. I really couldn't care less, because I got to think I'm not one to usually jump on the, oh, he's obviously crazy train when it comes to these. But in this case, I'm willing to jump aboard that one. But yeah, I don't know. I watched the video. I know we were kind of discouraged from doing so, but I watched the entire video, and there's a lot of lessons to take away from it.
Yeah. I agree. I watched the whole thing like 15 times just trying to get those lessons. Not because I'm morbid, like I hated it every single time.
Oh, it's terrible.
Well, let's talk about that in a second. But first, in his manifesto, won't your attack result in calls for the removal of gun rights from whites in the United States? Yes, that is the plan all along. You said you would fight to protect your rights and Constitution. Well, soon will come the time. And again, of course, our weak politicians, they buy right into this. And I'm just over here like, besides the human element of this, like, why does anyone in America, especially our politicians, care what happens in New Zealand? Has nothing to do with us. They have different laws. They have different everything. And again, gun-free zone.
They have a whole different culture. And I mean, the police in New Zealand were basically bragging about their fast 21-minute response time or whatever it was.
36
minutes.
Yeah, 36. Like, they're like, well, we got there in 36 minutes. And I don't care where you live in America, if that's the response time, that's slow. So it's a whole different culture. It's not even, we live in different worlds, basically. I've been in New Zealand, beautiful place, but it's different.
Yeah. So some of the lessons that I was able to take away, and I'm interested to hear you guys as well, is I watch this not because of anything else than to increase my survivability should I ever be a part of something like this, and to increase my ability to help other people increase their survivability in this. But the guy basically starts shooting immediately in the room before he even enters that room. There's like a 20 to 30 foot hallway that he walks down. People scatter to two far corners and create just big lumps of people laying on top of each other. Just a pile of bodies on each side of the room. So he walks in the room, he engages left, he engages right, he engages left, he engages right, he walks out of the room. In Las Vegas, we watch a lot of these videos from the scene, and all you can hear is people screaming, get down, get down, get down, making them, just much easier targets for someone who's just firing indiscriminately. Those are some of the lessons that I took away. There's a guy at one point that looks like he's trying to runs into the murderer and knocks him down a bit, takes some rounds. And I think to myself, what if that guy had the warrior mindset? What if he had that? I mean, he had surprise, he had the speed, he just didn't have the violence of action that it requires. And then also, what good would a gun do in that situation? Instead of maybe huddling in a corner, maybe a concealed carrier draws their firearm and is ready for the guy when he walks in. Maybe he wins that battle, maybe he doesn't. There's just so many things to take away from it. And Zane, you thought about it too, right?
Well, yeah. So the first thing I noticed is he has a slung AR and a semi-automatic shotgun, in his hands as he walks down the street, walking right past people, and nobody seems to like even notice. And so even in America, that would strike you as odd. Like even some of the most hardcore open carry, like wherever you see that's going to strike you as odd. People act like they didn't even notice. So then he starts shooting, empties a shotgun, ditches that. He has several malfunctions with his long gun several times, and you could tell he did not know how to clear them. At one point, he just goes back to the car and ditches it because he can't clear it and gets another one. So, and as he's moving through the rooms, he's not. I suppose I give him too much credit, but he's not pieing any corners. He's not moving tactically, if you will. So, to your question of what would a gun do, I mean, dude was literally just strolling around with zero idea of what he was doing, and anybody with any level of training probably could, and even not, if 10 of those people huddling in the corner would have just said, you know what, we're just going to tackle this guy and beat him to death. A couple of them are going to take rounds, but at what point do you do something? And then the last thing I thought of was, not really thought of, but it just reinforced was, do you have medical gear on you? Because even if you don't have a gun and you're able to escape, you might have a bullet in your leg or your chest or your stomach or whatever. Do you have, and if there's a 36-minute response time for police, God knows what the ambulance response time is. So can you take care of yourself till they get there? No one's coming to save you. You are your own responsibility.
Yeah. Mike, what observations were you able to kind of take away?
Well, let me start first with the 36 minutes, because I actually posted on that when I saw that. I read it and almost came out of the chair because I was like, 36 minutes, and now you want to tell me to turn in my firearm, and you're going to take 36 minutes? My daughter could run across Las Vegas faster than that. So that was the first thing that really freaked me out. But obviously, it's easy to kind of play, Monday morning quarterback and say, okay, I would do this, I would do that. And I believe that a lot of people in our industry, in our community, a lot of them are soldiers, and a lot of them do training. They actually take, classes and courses, and they stay refreshed in that. And I believe that helps you, even like when you're fighting and you're just used to being in fights, you're going to be more comfortable. But the biggest takeaway, and I think you kind of hit on this a little bit too, is first aid, learning first aid, right? Like that's a huge thing, because obviously people froze up, and I don't know, maybe they felt like it was easier just to stay still or act dead. And he clearly, what we can learn from this is he went back and he was shooting into people that were laying there, that were wounded or playing dead. And I think people need to understand that that's not don't do that. Like, move, get off the kill spot, zigzag, get out, break a window, try to get out, whatever you can do. So there's a lot we can take. If you can watch the video, which I've seen some people that watched it, my wife watched it and she was like, I don't know why I just did that. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, but there is some lessons here, and we should use this as a lesson, a place where we can take lessons from. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in that thing.
So much.
I mean, even if you go with the government's model of run, hide, fight, none of that consists of laying down in plain sight. And I don't want to sound like I'm blaming these people.
I'm not.
I definitely do not want to come across as that. But I mean, I don't know.
Look, I mean, the goal of watching this, the goal of talking about it, is for us as individuals, the people who listen to this show, and all of us, Americans, like just humans, it's for us to be harder to kill, right? Like there's always going to be evil in the world, no matter what kind of thing you believe in, whether it's evil, whether it's just insanity, whether it's just cold-blooded desire to murder, whatever it happens to be. Like, we have to be as hard to kill as possible. And even if you don't like guns, still, I said this on another show, and I was like, look, we don't have to convince the other side to like guns. We don't have to convince them at all. All we have to convince them of is that their life is more important than someone who should wish to take it from them. And once we do that, once they realize that their life is important and that there's no one else there to save them and that they're responsible for their own life, guns are a foregone conclusion. They'll come to that on their own.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing here is do something. Even if it's the wrong thing, do something. If you do nothing, it's absolutely going to be the wrong thing. So,
yeah,
and like you said, your life, my life is more important than some person who would wish to take it. And even if you don't like guns, you can still carry a med kit, because bad things happen all the time. It doesn't have to be an active shooter or something. Bad things happen. So
yeah, I was just in Georgia over the weekend teaching a medical class because it's important. It's really important to me. I do it because it's one of the most rewarding things that I do, not monetarily, but just being able to teach people how to respond in case they should be having this, most terrible day of their life. It's incredibly important. Next story, Zane, comes from Florida. Florida bill would turn kids into criminals for posting pictures of guns online. I guess there's not a whole lot to say about that, but yeah, that would basically, let's see, it was introduced by a Florida state senator, said a minor who posts or publish a picture of a firearm, a BB gun, an air or gas operated gun, or a device displayed to resemble a firearm to a social media page, post, profile, or account that is openly viewable to the public commits a misdemeanor of the first degree, punishable by up to a year in jail or a fine of up to $1,000. Any parent or guardian of a minor or any adult responsible for the welfare of a minor, if the minor possesses a firearm in violation of this section, may, if the court finds it appropriate, be required to participate in classes on parent education, which are approved by the the Department of Juvenile Justice. Upon the first conviction of the minor, upon any subsequent conviction of the minor, the court may, if the court finds it appropriate, require the parent to attend further parent education classes or render community service hours together with the child. And number 3, any firearm that is possessed or used by a minor in violation of this section shall be promptly seized by a law enforcement officer and disposed of. Zane, I know you have a ton to say about it, so I want to go to Mike and let him give his viewpoint first.
Yeah, this is not cool. I don't like this at all. I think this sets a precedent, and it's a slippery slope. And now we're going to get into ridiculous stuff. It's kind of like when Gilbert Arenas did like that type of deal. Like, I'm on fire, I'm shooting. I mean, I just don't like it. But Zane, I'd love to hear it. I think it's just bad all around. So, let it rip.
Well, yeah, it's, and the funny part is, so social media is already like cracking down on what we can post. And now the government wants to like jump on board with them. So first of all, it is not illegal in Florida for a minor to shoot a firearm. It's not illegal for a minor to be in possession so long as they are supervised by an adult. And in fact, in the case of BB guns, you only have to be 16 years old to be unsupervised and in the possession of a BB gun. So none of this is illegal. They're literally just criminalizing the act of posting it. This is a major First Amendment violation. Yeah. I mean, Second Amendment implications are there, but this is a major restriction on free speech. And who is the senator? I read it earlier. It just got me flustered.
Jason Pizzo.
Yeah,
he's full of Pizzo.
Yeah, he's full of something.
Yeah,
yeah. And again, I think this is another one of those. He's just virtue signaling to his fan base. This ain't gonna go anywhere.
Yeah, I agree. I go by the. I live my life by the. If someone says something enough, it kind of becomes true. Whether it's, actually true doesn't matter. But if you say something enough, it eventually becomes true, and that's kind of what the zeitgeist actually is.
It's the narrative is guns are bad, and if we keep saying it enough, people will agree with us.
Yeah, like I mean, so what's next? Like a kid posts a picture, of a beer. It's illegal for them to possess that, but posting a picture of it is ridiculous. What about Wu-Tang Clan? They're nothing to F with. You post a picture of Wu-Tang Clan, now you go to jail, or you're punished by a year in jail or a fine of up to $1,000. It's crazy. Like, and I'm saying, like, we saw this. We've seen this in this country before. It was back when hair metal was kind of a thing, and we had all the organizations that were trying to save everybody from it, and buying music became a crime in certain places. And it's more of the same, just an infringement on not just the second, but absolutely without question the first.
Well, I guess my other question is, who's going to enforce it if it does pass? Like, I see pictures on the internet all the time of people blatantly violating the law.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no one's coming after it. Occasionally it happens. I know of some cases where someone did something, but like for the most part, like I see people all the time on the internet smoking weed, and in Florida, that is not legal. Even under medical purposes, it has to be in some other form than smoke. So it's like, and no one's good. And I should mention, I don't agree with the government telling you what you can put and can't put in your body, but nonetheless, it is illegal, and no one cares. So yeah. Like they're literally trying to control the conversation is what it boils down to. They're trying to control the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be careful too, because one thing that I've learned with working with mental health, right? Because now I'm getting invited to all these things. Like 3 weeks ago, I was in DC at a Mental Health America conference. With all this anti-gun rhetoric, and then the Pride from a Cold Dead Hands, and all this fighting that we've done, I feel like there's a lot of people that have forgotten that shooting sports can be. There are a lot of young shooters. Like, I go in there, I always try to remind them, because my biggest deal is to try to get the mental health community to say, look, there's no correlation with a healthy fascination with firearms if you're young, when you're in your teens, or I don't know, 7 up, right? Like, it's just, to me, it makes sense that you're allowed to say that. They don't want to touch that, right? Because they're like, we don't know, because they never think about the competition shooter, right? And I think everybody here can probably name a couple of kids, young kids that are competition shooters that are like badass shooters, totally responsible. They shoot better than some adults and represent the community as well. We've forgotten that it's not, it shouldn't be taboo, that was our whole thing, man. Eddie the Eagle, right? Like safety, like young kids.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, 100% agree.
So I actually volunteer with the Friends of NRA organization, and a lot of what they do is literally raise money for youth shooting sports, things like 4-H and ROTC and things of that nature. So it's not illegal to do that whatsoever. In fact, it flourishes down here in Florida. They're just basically like, well, yeah, you can do it, but you can't tell people about it. You can't share it with your friends, and that's just how, I mean, do we really want the government any more in our lives than they already are?
No, no, not even a little bit. Oh, goodness. Where do we go from here? Columbine copycats kill 8 in Brazil school shooting. Don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but I want to talk about this. They say Columbine copycats right there. We know instantly who they're talking about because it was so incredibly publicized. This is in Suzano, Brazil. 2 former students opened fire at a Brazilian school on Wednesday, killed at least 5 teenagers and 2 school officials before committing suicide in an attack that the police said was inspired by the 1999 Columbine massacre in the United States, 70 miles north of where I'm sitting right this second, in fact. So I kind of read through it and I was trying to figure it out. It was a 17-year-old and a 25-year-old. The 17-year-old was the ringleader here and apparently had been bullied in school. They had a pact that they were going to die together. And then I noticed the firearms that they used. 1 .38 caliber pistol and speed loaders, along with the crossbow knives, a compound bow, an arrow, and several Molotov cocktails. Police arrived 8 minutes, not 36. Or good for them, I mean. And the attackers were already dead after 8 minutes. So the media and everyone glorifies, maybe they don't intend to glorify it, but they give them the notoriety that they want. This kind of thing happens. I'm struck by a couple things here. They had a healthy body count. These murderers did, using something that we wouldn't consider even really that risky at all. I haven't seen any Democrats that want to ban revolvers or anything else like that. But with a little bit of practice, even with a revolver, people can change the rounds and get rid of the rounds pretty quickly. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, anytime you hear copycat, yeah, that's a tough one, right? Because someone's just mimicking something that, happened. It was an odd story when I saw the ages of the 2 guys and the age discrepancy. Like, that was a little strange to me. It was a 25 and a 17-year-old. Like, what happened there? But yeah, you dealing with that, and it's a tough one. It's one that just brings out the emotion because you're dealing with children again, right? But I always go back. Look, if you don't want to arm teachers, which is fine, I get that. Why don't we treat our children like we treat, you want to stop people going to schools? Put banks in the middle of schools. I guarantee you that there'll never be a mass shooting at a school again because we protect our money. Like, oh my God, you can't even near it. You know what I mean? So It's a shame.
I agree. Zane?
Well, to your first point, Mike, that the age discrepancy is weird. And what's even weirder is the fact that the younger is the supposed ringleader here. It makes you wonder if there's something else going on there, but I don't want to. My tinfoil hat's up there, but I'm not going to put it on. But so I guess, so the Columbine thing happened in 1999. And so for everyone who doesn't know how old I am, I was still in high school when that took place. I can still to this day tell you the names of both of those shooters.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I'm not going to, but because that was, and I was 16, 17 no, I was younger than that. I would have been 14 or something at the time. So, and I was not into guns. I was not into the news, but I, to this day, can tell you what their names are. So that just goes back to the original point of, we got to stop glorifying these people. I mean, here it is 20 years later, and their actions are being copied. That's crazy.
Pretty insane, man. And then the last news from this segment is Hudson Firearms files for bankruptcy. Hudson Manufacturing made a splash a couple of years ago at SHOT Show. They were bringing the Hudson H9 to market. I've talked to Cy and Lauren many times. I'm sad that their dream is dying. The thing that affects me more than anything else about this is that the gun that they were selling to people are having a lot of issues. And a lot of people had sent their guns back for service and other stuff like that. And it infuriates me that people paid for this gun and then send it in for service, and they're just going to end up with literally nothing. They own air, and I don't think that there's ever going to be a chance of them getting it back. Maybe I'm just being overly sensitive. I don't think they're going to, because they filed Chapter 7, meaning they chose to liquidate all their assets to absolve their debts. These people, they paid for something and it's gone, and it pisses me off, to be perfectly honest. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. You guys tell me, Mike.
It's a tough one, man, because I'm sure their heart was in the right place. Being that this is something, this actually hits home for me because of the Avidity Arms project, right? That's one of the reasons why my PD10, the one that I worked on with Rob Pincus, we have really taken our time, because people have always said, be careful, you don't want to be like Hudson, like that. That's something that stuck with me. When I saw the numbers of what they were spent, or what was spent, I mean, that kind of blew me away.
Yeah. Right now, their estimated assets are less than $50,000, but their liabilities are between $10 and $50 million.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to ever compare Avidity Arms to Hudson again, because that's like me comparing myself to Justin Timberlake. Right. It's not even close. But I feel you on that, man. As a company, Eagle Imports, we just lost Grand Power. Grand Power decided to take their they went in a different direction, and that's fine. What they lose with that is the Eagle Imports customer service and warranty. That sucks to have something that, there's no warranty behind it. I feel you on that. And it's something that everybody has to think about when they make a purchase, And
I'm thinking, like, I come on, man, just like send the freaking guns back, even if they're unrepaired. Don't just keep people's guns. Like, go to their Facebook page, and all it is like, yeah, I sent my gun in like months ago. I've called, I've emailed, I get nothing back. And I'm just like, look, Cy and Lauren are good people. I don't believe that they set out to infringe anyone, but I will damn well tell you that as long as I was able to keep my FFL, if I had to like literally go beg on a corner to send people their H9s back, repaired or unrepaired, doesn't matter, I would get them their property back. I think it's scummy and crappy. I don't know. Zane, what do you think?
I mean, I don't think any of us can say we didn't see this coming. I think they had a decent idea, and I think in concept the pistol's awesome. I just, kind of like you alluded to, Mike, I don't think they got the bugs worked out before they went to production, and it cost them big time. And yeah, it's pretty crappy that people are going to be out. The other side of that is, me personally, I'm never buying anything when it's brand new. I'm gonna let everybody else test the bugs out.
Beta test it.
I'm not gonna, I say that almost every week over on Gun and Gear Review. I'm like, yeah, it looks cool, but I'm not gonna be the first one to buy it. But yeah, it sucks. I think the idea is there. The idea of that, the recoil system they designed and everything, it's awesome, but it didn't work, and a lot of people are gonna get screwed over it. And yeah, I've heard a lot of interviews with Cy, and like you alluded to, he seems like a really nice guy and everything, but this is pretty crappy. Yeah,
I agree. And maybe there's some reason they can't send people's property back, but it just feels.
Well, like, I mean, to send back an unrepaired gun would open them up to huge liability, I would think. I mean, like if you send a gun as an FFL, you send someone a product that isn't properly functioning, I got to think that's a huge liability. That's why, I've always heard on how true it is if you have a gun that's broken, don't even call the manufacturer, just send it to them because they won't send you back a broken gun.
Maybe. All right. Well, I don't want to crap on them too much. Like I said, I've talked to them many times on the air and behind the scenes as well. I think they're good people. I'm sad about it. I actually really did like the H9. So I thought about buying one yesterday for $599. And I don't know. I still kind of want to, but at the same time, there's just the problem with the extractor and no one making extractors. And I don't know. It's tough. Let's move on to the I'm offended segment. Was there anything in here that you guys saw that you were like, oh yeah, we got to talk about this?
Well, there's one, but I don't want to talk about it on air. But I'll just say the anti-gun CCW commissioner in Florida starts suspending licenses. That I'll just read the headline. I am in Florida. I teach concealed weapon licenses, and I don't want to go on record and say anything.
Yeah,
for reasons. But I just think Florida people need to be aware of that.
Yeah, 100%. You don't have to say anything. I'll talk about it just a little bit. There's a Democratic Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services that oversees the issuance of concealed carry permits in the state. During her campaign, she vowed to use her office to crack down on guns in every possible way, which I think that's kind of interesting. Well, a guy just recently got a letter stating that his concealed weapons permit had been indefinitely suspended. They say it was because he had an injunction or a restraining order filed against him in Nassau County in 2003. It never happened. He went there. He had the Nassau County Clerk's Office confirm that there was no record. And then he took this to the local Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services and said, hey, look, they say this. They, instead of helping him in any way, they were like, let us see your concealed carry permit. Okay, now this is ours. You don't get it back. And you have to go to the clerk of courts, get a court certified letter stating that they have no record of any injunction issued against him. Then you can get the permit back. The problem here, state agency, they're demanding that a citizen prove that his innocence before he can exercise a constitutional right. Like they're just random, completely false, untrue. No idea how they got that in their system. He is considered guilty and it has to prove his innocence before he is able to exercise his Second Amendment right. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly why we have issues with red flag laws, right? I mean, it's that thought process, right? I got to prove my innocence just off accusation or, something getting screwed up in the paperwork or something like that. So yeah, it's not cool. I deal with that. I deal with this conversation a lot just because of the nature of both my companies. But yeah, I'm not for that. I don't like it at all.
Yeah, me either. I'm pretty against it. And then I guess just a weird one. Hawaii introduced a measure to
hang on real second. I will say this much though. I've always found it odd, even when I first got my concealed weapons license 10, 11 years ago, that it goes through the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services.
It is a little weird.
I just always thought that was weird. That's the department that handles it, but
yeah. Actually, instead of Hawaii introduced a measure literally to repeal the Second Amendment. They're dumb, whatever. It's not going to go. But you talked about this earlier, Mike, about the youth and how many young lives are enriched and rewarded because of Second Amendment and firearms in this country and hunting with their parents. But also the IOC president wants shooting sports pulled from the Olympic Games. And I thought that was kind of interesting. There's an article at 3 Wire Sports and just kind of talks about all this, says that at the Olympics, the guns have to go. That is to be gone. Shooting has been a fixture of the Olympic program of the Summer Games since 1896, except for in 1904 and 1928. And they're saying, no, it's got to be bigger than that. It says that Olympics is about something bigger than each of us and all of us, the best of us, a higher cause, if you will. Shooting is not that. And wow, we cannot have an Olympic program. We cannot have in the Olympic program a game which is promoting violence or discrimination. I'm pretty sure that at no point have I ever seen any of that. In fact, I have the Olympic Training Center here in Colorado Springs. Not just that, but I've met many of the athletes that shoot. Sarah Beard, national champion and Olympic. She's been to the Olympics and she is an amazing person. And I cannot tell you how much more awesome her life is because of her taking part in all of this, and to take that away. And not just that, but one of the people with the most medals in the United States, which I'm drawing a blank on her name, which is awful because she's awesome.
Yeah, the trap and skeet shooter. I can't remember her name either.
Suddenly I just can't. I'm drawing a complete blank. Kim Rode,
Yes.
double trap, and she has 6 Olympic medals, 3 gold. She is amazing. And damn it, I know I'm not allowed to cuss on the show, and I'm sorry, Kenny, but this is so annoying. And this is just more of that, like we talked about, trying to make this something that is unseemly and terrible. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, it's really not cool. And I don't like curling, so that can go if I become in charge. Like I got all kinds of stuff that I'll throw out. But that's where we have to be careful, and we have to understand that if we don't engage in conversation with the so-called other side or whoever it is, they're going to stop understanding why we feel a certain way, right? Because look, I don't play golf. I golf bores me. I get it why people like golf, but if someone said to me, yeah, we're going to put a waiting period on, going out and golfing and stuff like that, if I didn't care, I'd probably be like, yeah, I don't care. That makes sense to me. You tell me why. Right. So I think that's why we have to push forward and say, and course correct with some of this nonsense, right? Like that's a skill, right? It's a sport. It's been part of the Olympics forever. There's nothing violent about someone who's a great shooter.
No.
And to even address it in a sense of like, well, let's have a discussion about it. No, like, just push through. So I don't like that at all.
Yeah. Zane?
I mean, is there any discussion on getting rid of boxing or wrestling? I
No.
mean, while we're on violence, let's go ahead and just get rid of those too, because I'm pretty sure those are martial sports and great martial sports. And I am not advocating for them to be removed, but if this is about violence, why don't we look at those? I find skeet, trap, and sporting clays as boring as golf. I've done it once, and I'm like, this is not fun. But you know what? Some people think it is, and there's people that get scholarships for college for that, and it's a viable sport. And there's nothing violent about wing shooting. In fact, it's of all the shooting sports, probably the least violent of any of them. I mean, I shoot at silhouettes, so I got to think that's slightly more violent than shooting at a little orange disc flying through the air.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think the whole premise is dumb.
What about this? The Olympic Committee president, who has said a couple of things in this article, fencing. Oh, okay, cool. Sword fighting.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Fencing. Yeah. You got wrestling, boxing. I think is jiu-jitsu an Olympic sport? I don't know if it is or not. I don't think so, actually. But wrestling definitely is. Boxing definitely is. Fencing definitely is. So, I mean, and they're all, I guess fencing's cool. I've never actually watched it, but
we should all do it at the next show. Who's going to NRA?
I'm down for a fencing match.
Yeah, I'll be there, and I will sword fight somebody.
No, but one thing that, one of the points that I'd like to make too is they're talking about a violence or, that type of a violent sport. Boxing is a very dangerous sport. And we prove that with mixed martial arts, right? That the knockout is actually better than the constant rattling of a brain. So mixed martial arts is actually a safer sport than boxing. Like that's something we couldn't wrap our head around when we saw the violent knockout. The violent knockout is as bad. If we're going to do anything and throw any sports out of the Olympics, let's do the ones that can cause brain damage. I mean, that would be the first step. I don't care what the imagery is. I care more about the health of the athlete. So
yeah, let's talk about traumatic brain injuries. Hockey.
Yep.
Lots and lots and
hockey's probably the most violent sport in the Olympics.
Exactly. Also my favorite. I don't know what that says about me, but yeah, 100%. Yeah. Hockey's incredibly violent. There's not really a whole lot of fighting in Olympic hockey, but there's some scrums that happen, and the Czechs they're rattling at best and violent and deadly at worst. They're skating around on knives and hitting small rubber things with sticks, and sometimes people get in the way of those sticks. So it's like everything that they're trying to talk about, that glorification of violence. And it's ridiculous. Anyway, enough about that. My blood pressure can't take it. Let's talk about good things. Let's talk about you guys. Zane, what have you been up to? Where can people find you?
Well, teaching classes with Contextual Defense and Consulting, doing my thing there. Over at Gun and Gear Review, just reviewed a couple products. A trigger and a extended slide stop for a Glock, and I got some other stuff coming in. So keeping busy, writing reviews, writing articles, doing podcasts, teaching classes, staying busy. Find all the stuff we do at Gun and Gear at Firearms Insider and all that. And I would like to mention, I'm not the one who does the posting, because I see some of the weird stuff that Chad likes from that. But yeah, you can find all my reviews and stuff over there. And as for me personally, I'm at Contextual Defense and Consulting on the Facebooks and the Instagrams and all the stuff.
Always a pleasure, Zane. Thanks for filling in tonight, man.
Hey, perfect. I love being here.
Mike, how about you? What have you been up to? I think today you podcasted more than I did, and really no one in the firearms industry podcasts more than I do.
Well, I'm going to try to give you a run for your money on that one. No, I've been good, man. I'm just everything Eagle Imports, Bursa, Metro Arms. Obviously I'm still doing my regular job. My second job, which I don't get paid for, but I think I'm doing some good out there, is Walk Talk America. That's been growing great. You could find us WTTA.org or go to Walk the Talk US on all the social media platforms to see what we're up to. But I'm kind of really excited. I just want to throw this in there real fast. We are the first gun company to all Bursas, all Llamas, all American Classics, Metro Arms products, MAC, SPS will now come with the mental health flyer. I actually got some in the other day, and I just want to show you real fast. This is what it looks like. This is going to be it's okay to talk about your mental health. I think this is a first step for our industry to show that we police our own. It's just going to be something huge. My goal is to have this in every firearms box in the next 2 years. So excited about that. So
that's cool. So, I mean, it's all about taking away the stigma and being able to talk to people, right?
Yeah, take away the stigma, and also the first step of saying to the rest of the world, like, I want to get out ahead of it, like the alcohol industry did with drunk driving. Like, yeah, we understand, like, this, it's not a game. It's not something we're playing. We take it serious. We'll show the rest of the world that, look, there's places for us to go, safe spaces, get rid of the stigma, get people talking about it. I mean, we lose so many first responders and vets a day to this because we have nowhere to go. Right. So I just want people, look, the card says do not throw out. And even if they do throw it out or somebody throws it out, I want people to see mental health and understand that that's important. So, I don't want to hijack your show with this, but this is something I'm very proud of. So,
no, I like it a lot.
And on that note, I think a lot of times we as gun owners are really quick to, say things like, oh, yeah, well, obviously we don't want people with mental health issues to have guns. And I think that's dangerous because while we don't want people who are dangerous to have guns, I mean, depression's a mental health issue, and how many people are diagnosed with that? So I love what you're doing, Mike, and I think we got to remove the stigma. Like it's okay. And I think that when we as gun owners say things like that, we might be pushing people away from seeking help. So
yeah, 1000%, man. You're spot on. So
where can people get involved or find out more information?
WTTA.org, walktalkamerica.org. And like I said, if you go on to our Facebook or Instagram, we're constantly pumping out info there, Walk the Talk US. And also to anybody that owns a firearm company that would like to get involved and just start doing this, putting these in their boxes, safes, whatever. I'm down to help you figure out how to do that. Just contact me. So
very cool, man. Love it. And don't forget Eagle Imports, all kinds of stuff going there. When am I going to get my PD10?
The unicorn. No, the PD10 is actually into some of the final testing. It takes a long time, but everyone was shooting it at SHOT Show, range day. That was kind of cool. Listen, you're going to love it when it's here. I promise you, but we just, we could have a whole show on kind of what just happened with Hudson. It's something that we talked about for a long time. This isn't easy.
Yeah. Look, yeah. And here's the bottom line. Like, people can give you crap all they want, but ultimately you guys feel a responsibility to the community and you're not putting out something before it's ready. And there's so much to be said about how great that is. Like, personally, yeah, people are jerks on the internet. It doesn't really matter. Do it when it's right. It'll be out. I see Pincus say this all the time. It'll be out when it's ready.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, thank you so much. I can't possibly thank you enough for being on here with me. I would like our listeners to go to Patriot Patch Company, patriotpatch.co. And look, there's a lot of stories about self-defense in this show every single week. And I feel very strongly that having some kind of self-defense insurance is a great idea. The company I work with and everything that I do is Second Call Defense. I think they're great. They were the ones who innovated the entire way that this industry now works, and everyone has copied them. But Second Call Defense is still out there. They're still kicking butt and taking names. And in my opinion, providing the absolute best coverage. You can find more at firearmsradio.tv/SCD. Thanks to everyone for listening. If you like the show, let me know. If you don't like the show, let me know. I love it all. I love all the feedback that I can possibly get. And I will talk to you all next week. And we'll have different panelists. We'll have a whole new slew of news stories, and we'll have fun just like we always do. Thanks for supporting This Week in Guns and the Firearms Radio Network. I'll talk to you soon.